it's Amanda from I Am Baker, and today's dessert is a doozy. It is rich, decadent chocolate brownie covered in peanut butter mousse of sorts, and then topped with homemade whipped cream, and then there's more, some chopped up Reese's peanut butter cups. It is layer after layer of amazingness, and we are gonna dive right in, and so you can make this for your friends and family. First off, we need to make our brownie batter. I'm going to start with my eggs and add them to a big bowl. And I just want to whisk them a little bit just to break them up. And then to this, I am going to add some granulated sugar. After you get that sugar added, just keep on whisking, and you're going to notice the eggs get a little bit lighter in color, start getting a little fluffier. And our next ingredient is vanilla. I add a full-on tablespoon of vanilla. So we just want to incorporate that. And then one of the final ingredients in our wet ingredients is melted butter. So I started with room temperature eggs, and then this is warm melted butter. And we are not going to end up with scrambled eggs because those ingredients are about the same temperature, so they'll incorporate beautifully. And this is looking absolutely gorgeous. Do we even need flour and cocoa powder? Yes, we do. So speaking of our next ingredient, let's add our flour right to our wet ingredients. All right, I put some flour into a measuring cup, sifted it in, and then I'm going to level it. And now we have our perfectly measured cup of flour. We're gonna do that twice because we need 2 cups. I'm going to do that again because I need another half cup of flour. And we have our perfect half cup. And then our next ingredient is cocoa powder, and I use 1/3 cup. To our flour and cocoa powder, we're going to add some baking powder. This is going to help those brownies puff up beautifully. And then just a little bit of salt, about a ½ teaspoon. And I always like to use kosher salt in my baking. And now, sun's out, guns out, we're gonna use some of that muscle power and make sure all of that cocoa powder and flour is really well incorporated into our batter. So once you have all of those ingredients incorporated, you put it into your prepared baking pan. And I happen to have, I think this is an 8x12, you can use a 9x13. And we are going to get every last drop of that brownie batter into the pan. And then just smooth it out. You do want a nice even layer so that it will bake evenly. And I tend to kind of push the batter a little bit more out to the edges. I just try to help it along and make sure it's super even. And I'm going to pop this into a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes. While that is in the oven, we are going to make the peanut butter layer, and that is super easy, just 3 ingredients. The first is cream cheese. To that, we'll add just about a cup of creamy peanut butter. And then I like to incorporate these just a little bit before I add the next ingredient. All right, these are mostly incorporated, so I'm going to add the final ingredient to this layer, and that is the confectioner's sugar. And I'm just gonna sprinkle that on and then take it slow because I don't really want to wear this. So this typically only has 3 ingredients, but I'm noticing it's a little bit thicker than what I want because we're going to be spreading an even layer over the brownies. So I'm just gonna go ahead and think on the fly here and add a little bit of whole milk to try and loosen it up just a little bit and see if I can get just a little bit creamier consistency. So in total, I added probably an additional like 1/4 cup of milk. And this is definitely the consistency that I'm going for. It's gonna splatter me, I just know it. All right, that looks beautifully creamy. I am going to set this aside and do probably my favorite part of the recipe, which is cutting up our Reese's peanut butter cups. All you need is about 30 pieces. You can get the big or the small. Honestly, The bigger are easier to unwrap. So grab a cutting board and a sharp knife, and I just quarter them. You can go as big as small as you want. So I like to just get a nice bite-size piece. Perfect. All done. I'm gonna set these aside and we're gonna start assembling our dessert. My brownies are room temperature, and you do want to make sure they're cooled to at least room temperature before adding the peanut butter mousse. Otherwise it will just melt right on in, which is not a bad thing per se, but not as pretty for your final presentation. So to these cooled brownies, I'm going to add our peanut butter layer. All right, so this is a small offset spatula. You can tell it's offset, it's tiny, self-explanatory, right? And then I like to make sure there is peanut butter just covering every single little bit of our brownies. And then a nice even layer. The more even you get it, the better. And then on top of this, we're going to add our homemade whipped topping. I whipped mine up already. It's just a little heavy whipping cream with some confectioner's sugar. So I'll just add most of this right on top. And then I wiped off my small offset spatula, and I'm going to carefully just press that whipped topping into the corners and all over so that I make sure my layers stay as separate as possible. All right, so that looks pretty great, but we're not done. We're gonna sporadically drop those Reese's Pieces bits all over top, and that is it. This is smelling amazing. My kitchen is just full of peanut butter and chocolate, and I cannot wait to dive in. I'm gonna go for a big piece because I am baker and that's kind of what I do. You are definitely going to want yours chilled before you dive in, but I think you'll get the point of how amazing it's going to taste. As you all know, the first piece is never the prettiest, but it's always the most delicious. That's the perfect size for me. It's enough for 5 people. So I got a little bit of brownie, a lot of that peanut butter, a lot of whipped cream, and of course, the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup right on top. Here we go. It's so good. Head on over to my blog, I Am Baker, for the full recipe. I can't even let this out of my sight for 1 second. You are going to be the hit of your next get-together if you bring this, guaranteed.